everybody. We might have to edit out that beginning part, or do we? That's really the question. Do we have to edit out? Guys, I have something so exciting today. Today, my worlds are colliding in the best ways. I have not only, as you guys have been listening to the past few weeks, the amazing Cathy Lorezel on, but we decided to bring in the hostess with the mostest. We decided to bring in Shara too. And
Hello, everybody. Here. I know, it's like a party.
It is a party. I knew it. I was like, you know what? Why am I
Lone Ranger
dating one when I could be dating both? That's really what
you know what? And that's the future.
All right. So, and there we go. So here's what we're going to do something fun today that a lot of you guys have been sending in questions, DMing questions. You have had questions for us at conferences that we've been at. And so we have so many, but and so we'll probably do this again, but we've narrowed it down today to some questions. But before we do that, this made me think of, I don't know for you guys out there, you guys have hosted conferences or, you've been to them, but when you go to a conference as a speaker, you tend to get like a little gift bag. And, you get gift bags in your hotel room or you get them, behind the stage or whatever when you go. And I have never asked you about this, Cathy. And I've never shared this with you. And Shara, you've even come to some speaking stuff with me. Oh, yeah. Have you ever gotten, they gave you some gifts too, haven't they?
I did get one. It wasn't weird. It was the coolest thing.
Oh, you're cutting in and out.
I am? Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Frozen.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
You're frozen.
I'm still frozen?
You are back, but I don't know what that means.
Okay.
This is what happens when we do technology. Okay. So have you ever gotten a gift from...
Yes, I have gotten a gift and it's been really cool. It was not weird at all. So I'll share mine, but you guys go first.
Were you with me?
No, I was working at a different conference. I was doing a hosting job with Jen Jones, actually.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. So you normally get like a little gift in the thing. And sometimes the gifts are really elaborate. And sometimes they're like, they're just like a nice little t-shirt or whatever. I mean, I've been at ones where I have gotten literally shirts from Zara. I've gotten a pair of shoes.
What?
I've gotten jewelry, like full on jewelry. I got $100 gift card on top, a Starbucks $100 gift card on top of the money they've already paid for me to do this.
Wow, you're very fancy.
Our mom got a YSL bag at one of her speaking gigs.
Oh,
YSL
and I know
bag.
that, church, because
yes, I know.
I didn't get the YSL bag, but I got a Marc Jacobs like full on wallet. I think it was Marc Jacobs. It was like a fancy one. Yeah, we both spoke at that fancy one. But
you guys, I'm just telling you that I'm very proud of myself. The fact that I just was like YSL, and I'm like, I really, because I've been watching the new look, on about Christian Dior and Coco Chanel, and so the only reason I was like, I can do this.
It's here.
That's what I love about you. I love that you're like, just have zero concept and clue and zero care. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I want to know. Those were the good things. Have you ever gotten something crazy, or have you ever gotten something that you really liked, Cathy?
Well, I just, as you are, all of a sudden I'm realizing our deodorant story, Karrie.
I wondered if you're going to bring that.
What deodorant?
Oh my God. Okay. So I have been, speaking on kind of little stages for a long time. And then I started to kind of move into bigger speaking engagements. And I'm from Seattle. I live in Seattle. I've been in Seattle for 20 years. And, we're all about like the natural things. Like, so we try to non-toxic, like I use the sheets for my washer that don't actually work, but we do it anyways, even though you can still smell dirty socks because you feel good about yourself. It's
of course.
Fine. So I do that with my body. And so I started, especially over COVID, really transitioned away from the heavy duty deodorant to deodorant that works in Seattle. That's very temperate. You don't really get very hot. You don't get very cold. Like, it's fine. And you're not anxiety sweating when you're by yourself. And so the first time I went to speak at Carrie's church, it was like 2021.
But I've known you before this. There's a reason why I did this.
You did. Well, and so all of a sudden I get there and Karrie has this beautiful little gift basket ready for me because, it's like one of my first big ones going to be recorded and all stuff anyways. And so, but in there is deodorant. It's a spray Dove.
Oh.
I'll never forget it. It was like a travel little deodorant thing. And I'm like, oh, it's so nice of her to give me deodorant. You know, I'm kind of like, you know, but then I go out and I start speaking and I come back at a break and I can smell because I used my hippy
Toms
dippy
or
little,
whatever.
yeah, totally. And
Mhm.
that does not cut it when you are anxiety sweating in front of like 300 people.
You need
And
sport
so
mode.
you do. And so
Yeah.
I was back there and I'm like, Karrie, God bless you. And so I'm like spraying this stuff on and like all over, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
If you
Did
know
you go
what
to
I
the
mean.
Did you go to
Yeah.
the bathroom and get like a washcloth and try to do a little quick wipe down? I remember doing that.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, oh
absolutely.
yeah, and because it's serious business. Because you're like, because you know, afterwards I have like book signings and all this stuff, and people are going to be coming up to me, and I was like, I smell like funk, and so from now on, so I still and Carrie's given me 3 different speaking things, and I have all of her little deodorants that I've gone through 2, and I
Yeah.
still have 1 more that I bring with me on the road because
It's like
This
going green like 80% of the time. You're like, listen, in Seattle, I'm all in. But
I'm
like
all
when I
in.
get on stage, it's all hands on deck. We need every
But
spray we can
when
get.
I hit the heat of that Atlanta,
Oh God.
my undercarriage is going to need some help.
Some light dusting, if you will.
Some light dusting. I mean, I spray that stuff on like it is anyone's business.
And that was because I was like, this is the moment when you know you've, you know, whatever the mark is, but you've arrived. Like
Yeah.
you are now at a level where you are not speaking to a room of 25 people or at the Allender Center where you're very
Right.
comfortable.
Yep.
You are like now invited into a world where you are on a stage and you're pitting out. And I love you too much to let you be my smelly
Yeah.
friend. Like
No, you can't. You're now an athlete. That's what it is. It's like you can't. You're the work that you're doing up on that stage. Your whole body is in, and it's working some crap out. If you know what I mean.
Is. There is a
Yeah.
lot going on. So I was a part of your crazy gift.
Yes, you were.
And it was a good gift. I've got you beat.
Thank you.
I've
Okay.
got you beat.
Share
So
it. We're ready.
I went in and got the gift. To be honest with you, I don't really remember the church that this was, but it was a church. And I went in and I saw the basket and nothing was wrapped in the basket. But it was all like kind of in there displayed nicely. And I was like, wait, what is that? And I got closer. And as I got closer, I saw a couple of things that were just so odd to me. First was, do you guys remember back in the 80s when they put like hosiery in an egg?
Oh yeah.
And it said like
No.
legs, but
Yeah.
it's LEGGS, legs.
Yes. Legs, you know how to use them. That's the jingle.
So I saw that there was the egg with the hosiery in it. And I go, oh, they got me hose, like nylons, but not like cute tights, but like hosiery, like
Yeah.
hosiery.
Yeah.
And then I glanced over to the right and I go, what are these? And they had gotten me nighttime pads.
You're like
The mattress.
The boat.
like tell me a man put this basket together
without
telling me. Period. Like a man's like, I don't know what the girl's like. Let's get her some
hosiery.
Oh, let's
if
get her
she
the
needs a
durable
pad.
pads. Yeah. She's got to be bleeding. They bleed all the time, right? There's no way she's not.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
I didn't even think about that. But yes, a guy had to put this together. I didn't even think about that. But
No,
yeah,
or like a 75-year-old woman.
Yes.
That is like, well,
I don't know. She's probably still bleeding.
what if she forgot? Like, because it's like the mortification of getting a run in your hose, right? That's a thing from
That's a thing for
Very
from
true.
1982.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1954.
Yeah.
But also the pads. So I got that. I had that. I had a bath bomb, which I always find hilarious because I'm like,
Who's taking a bath in a
who's
hotel room?
taking a bath here? But
Yeah,
thank
no.
you. And I think I got something else, but it was like some kind of like a book or something. But I was like some kind of weird book. But I just remember going, what was the thought process here when
And
you
what was
got
the
me
budget?
and
No, it was.
Giving
Look,
99
you guys-
cent store.
I'll tell you who put that basket together, and it's my grandma. And God bless her.
Yep.
And God bless her. And that's why
Yeah.
if you're listening and you were the one that gave me that, I just want you to know
God bless.
I love you.
Yeah.
Like I love where it went. It's making for a great story. If you
Yeah.
aren't the person that's done that and you're going to do a conference, opt out. Unsubscribe to the
They probably
unsubscribe
got the
to
pads covered.
But do give me Motrin and deodorant.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the moral of this story.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
And
some
anytime
things
you
that
want
are
to give me a Zara
practical.
shirt.
Oh yeah.
And a Zara
There's-
shirt. Throw that
Yeah.
in there.
Throw that the
Carrie.
YSL bag.
Carrie,
Also
what
the bath
happened? You
bomb.
could just get me an H&M shirt, Care, just next time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
I don't
I
need,
will.
the fancy stuff.
You don't
Although,
want a
can I
graphic
just tell
tee?
you that I've been watching the show about Christian Dior. I do want a graphic tee, but I was at the park yesterday and there was this guy very worky outy guy wearing a Dior sweatshirt. And I was like,
Yeah, he
where
was.
have we gotten here? Like, I don't understand.
You paid for all of it. If you're wearing Dior, you paid for all of it. This is just for show. These are for pictures. You're not actually working out. You got surgery. Don't lie to me.
I have one sweater that says Coco Chanel on it, and it's 100% fake. And I don't even wear that. Like I wear that when I'm going somewhere nice, and it's a
like-
sweatshirt. I'm like,
It says Coco in really small letters. It says Puffs Chanel. That's how you know it's a knockoff.
it's Coco Chanel.
Coco Channel.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even sure I can know the difference. I would be like, this is legit.
Like, looks good to me.
It's so nice. Oh my gosh. Well, I just felt like it was important for us to just have a moment where we can go, hey, these conferences, we do get a lot of questions. We do get to speak a lot. And that is just so fun for us. But also there's just these quirky things that happen when you go to these conferences that a lot of people just don't know about. There's so many things I could tell you about that. But I thought I needed someone to know that I got night pads and eggs, nylons, legs.
It needed to be
nylons.
said. Yeah.
It needed to be said. I
keep
needed
that
to get it
gem.
out.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I'm ready.
Shara, you're going to lead us in hosting today. We've gotten
Yeah.
a few questions, right? So, we've gotten some questions. Let us know about it. Ask
Yeah.
away. We're here for it. Question
Okay, so
answer,
per-
everybody.
Okay, I'm just the questions person. So I love all of this and I love reading everybody's questions coming in. So these are like some pretty great ones. So you're not going to want to go anywhere. This is a 2-part podcast and you're going to want to listen to all of them.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so for the first one, we have Carrie. This is for you. Are you ready? Are you
Okay,
feeling good about
yeah.
this?
Kind of. Yes.
All right. We're kind of just diving in here, guys, because this goes like from that really light to like pretty heavy here.
This
So
goes from
just
pads to heavy.
no buffer.
This goes from light flow to heavy flow. Real quick.
What's our
light flow to
demographic?
heavy
How many
flow.
men do we
Exactly.
have listening?
Probably,
Fantastic.
probably none now.
Yeah.
All right, Carrie. Am I back? Am I
Yes.
frozen? Okay, great.
Yes.
Can
No, you're good.
Can religion be an effective place to self-medicate against reality and even to escape from God?
Oof.
I know, right? Jump right in, baby.
Oof. Can religion be a place of self-medication and also read it again?
Can medicate against reality and even to escape from God?
Glad you have this one, Care.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the truth. Of course. Of course. I mean, religion is such a great way. And by religion, I'm not talking about relationship with humans. I'm talking about it is so good when you can be operating. And by good, I mean not good, but you can be operating in a place that has structure that says, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be good, you'll be worthy, you'll be seen, you'll be known. This is how you get to stay in belonging. And a lot of times religion, if it's when it's not done according to how Jesus really wants it done, then it actually allows us to not have to be seen. It actually allows us to just operate in behavior modification, which really does feel really good in the moment. Like, man, I can do all these things for Jesus. I can do all these things and feel good. And it allows a sense of going, I don't actually have to deal with the undercurrent of what's going on with my life. If I just do these religious acts, then I'm good. And when it comes to God, if we approach God through the grid of religion, then, and probably for whoever has written this, their world is set up to be, through probably a story of if I do this, this, and this, I can stay in belonging. Well, then I'm just going to put that in on God, right? Like I'm going to be able to go, man, God's really going to love me when I do all of these behaviors that are going to make me earn his love.
Mhm.
And then that's going to allow me to feel this kind of the hole in my heart or this tension that I'm feeling. And so
Mhm.
I think we do it more than we even want to admit. I think we use
Mhm.
religion as a means to medicate. And here's my 2 cents. I think we use religion just like somebody else would use drugs.
Mm.
I think we use it as a way of going, I, I need this to numb what is really going on. So if I can do that through the grid of religion by getting people's approval or
Mhm.
gosh, even getting God's approval through this, then that's going to incite in me a high of, I need to keep doing more of that. I need to keep doing
Mm.
more. So let me get on bigger stages. Let me help out more in the church. Let me stay busy. Let me create another ministry. And the whole time we're doing this in the name of Jesus, but we're not actually healing. We're not actually knowing God's best for us. We're not even knowing the face of God or Jesus for that matter. All we know is really it's just another place where we are placing a false cycle of freedom to
Mm.
try to find ourselves or find freedom in a structure that actually wants you, in a religious structure that actually wants you to behavior modify and do for your worth.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, what a great setup for megalomaniacs and narcissists and for people who really are very, very broken, because I can create a structure where there is hierarchy, there is places to climb, there are things to
Mhm.
do, and that does feed something temporarily, in a sense of I belong to something and now I feel a part of something. So I never have to actually look at me. Don't ever
Yeah.
actually have to deal with me. But it doesn't last. It ends up
I was about
usually
to say,
creating a church herd, and it usually
yeah.
ends up creating, this didn't actually fill the need. And so I'm going to go to something else to
Yeah.
do that.
So we're missing in structuring our ourselves around that. We're missing the ease of just being, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Like the ease and the comfort of just being instead of being consumed with the doing always.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
this
from
is
an
a
outsider,
bigger,
you're like, if you like look at the structures of religion, you're like, oh my gosh, there's safety in that. I'm still pursuing the Lord. Obviously, your ego can get involved and things can get really messy. But if you feel safe, it's like, okay, why would I choose something else if I'm feeling safe and good here? What is the depth that I'm missing?
right. And I mean, Cathy, you would definitely speak to this more, but like, I mean, you're also talking about arousal structures here. You're also, you're talking about a lot of things that, how does this make my body come alive?
Mhm.
And,
Mm.
and, the question being, can I use religion as a way to not find myself or sit with
Yeah.
myself? And the truth is, you can use anything that is a structure that keeps you from having to deal with your own heart or your own story, or really look at your own face
Yeah.
and the trueness of that. Anything that takes that place is going, in my opinion, is going to be a place where it's going to cause a lot of damage, because it sets you
Mm.
up for a lot of damage. And
Hmm.
it's because you don't actually know yourself. You don't actually have autonomy. You don't actually
Hmm.
know like your own voice, or really the voice of God, because it's run all through the grid of, you have to do and behave properly for you to stay in belonging. And the moment that you mess up, you leave. And so with the question being, do people use, or this person, what if I'm using religion to actually mitigate my pain or whatever, is that happening, and can I do that on God? It's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what a high, right? To feel
Hmm.
good when you're a part of something, until it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And it will get to the until it doesn't work anymore, because the spirit of God that lives inside you is always looking for truth, and it's
Yeah.
looking for real freedom, and it won't be
Hmm.
found in religious construct.
Hmm.
It just won't, because it will leave you lacking. I don't know. Any thoughts to that, Cathy?
Well, I think um, I think what we're really talking about is religious dogmatism. And so when you feel insecure, when you have trauma, when you have things that are, the world is very uncertain, and there's no guarantee that things are going to go well, that even the idea that if you believe in God, then all will be well. Well, that's just not true. Like, we know every disciple got a horrific death. not to go down, I mean, it's just, things don't work out the way that they work out, in the sense of we're actually allowing ourselves to be used by God and to move into places of healing and flourishing in a different way, but it doesn't look, clean. And we really want to avoid pain. We want to avoid the ambiguity of what it means to live in this life. We want to avoid the fact that we can't know for certain if one of us is going to die of cancer, if something's going to happen to one of our kids, if we're going to go into civil war. Like we don't know what's going to happen. And when we cling to, religion versus God, it soothes us because it gives us answers that feel clean. And God actually never promised us that. Jesus, the scriptures are very unclear. Every single question that was asked was answered by a story or almost a riddle, or a sense of like, the only thing that Jesus wrote on was sand, the ground, right?
Right.
Like he never gave us concrete things. We gave that to ourselves later because we felt very unsure of the mystery that God invited us into. And so when we cling to the certainty that is actually very uncertain, that makes us feel better and feel more secure. And it's a false security that actually leads to a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the question being, can it be an effective place? The answer, in my opinion, is it's effective until it's not effective anymore.
I was going to say, I almost read the question, even though it's not my question, but is it a safe place? Like, is it a safe place to lose yourself or to medicate is in the church or in religion?
Oh, interesting.
That's kind of how I am reading the question, even though she used effective. Like, yeah, can you do it? Yeah. But is it a safe place to go and do that? Because it's with your faith, it's with, your relationship with God. But I think all of the things you both are saying speak to that, whether it be safety or effective. Like, our hearts want it regardless.
I think God's intention for the church, Jesus's intention for the church, was for it to be a safe place, for the safest place to talk about anything, to be able to come and be loved on and to be cared for, not to be fixed. That's not our job, but to be a safe place where we can process what we're doing. I don't think that there are a lot of churches modeling that. And I'm a big proponent of church. I love church. I'm a pastor in a church. I don't see that a lot of churches are doing that. And so I do believe that God is hopefully raising up a remnant to begin to create some of those spaces. But church in itself, you are safe and you are unsafe because there are humans. And so if you are looking to church to actually help you heal, or actually if you're looking to church to heal you, it will fail you.
Yeah. So true.
That's my thoughts. Okay, next question. That was a good one.
All right.
We could talk a whole hour on that one.
Seriously. That can go really deep. All right, Miss Cathy. What happens if our families or spouses don't support this work? I'm guessing story work maybe is what they're referring to. Have you seen it work out well?
Yeah.
We get this question a lot, Cathy, around like spouses. My spouse isn't doing this. What do I do? All of that. So this is a general question that is asked often.
Yeah. So I'll answer it in two ways. One is it's really hard.
So hard.
It's really hard when you start to find something that is healing, that you feel excited about, that you're passionate about, or you're hopeful in, and your spouse is like, what are you doing? Like the amount of spouses that come back and are like, is my wife part of a cult because she has gotten into this whole story work thing,
Yeah,
totally. And you're like, no, but also, tell me more. So there's, so there's a lot of suspicion, but this is what I'll say is that the only person you can change is you.
Yes.
And so, this is a huge piece. There's a man, he died a couple years ago, but his name is David Schnarch, and he talks a lot about the concept of differentiation. And basically what he's saying is to mature both in a relationship and just as a human being, you need to start to understand who you are and manage yourself, your own emotions, know the inner parts of your own heart, and this sense that somehow someone else is going to know that and give you that without you doing your own work first is unfair. And
That's so
so
good.
no matter what, you have to do your own work,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
If your spouse is supportive, it's maybe a little easier. If they're not supportive, it's a little more challenging, but the work doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that will change your marriage or even potentially change your spouse is that you start moving into more healed places and you're able to handle circumstances in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that may really frustrate your spouse, but that will also, you're going to kind of reach a point where you'll be at a crossroads
Mm-hmm.
of, look, I'm not going to live this way anymore. It's like, let's say together as a couple, you've lived a very quiet, meek life where, you come home after work, you cook dinner, you clean up, and then you watch Netflix until you go to bed, and then you sleep and you do it all over the next day. And you start to do this work healing, you start to come alive, you want to go hiking, you want to go on trips, you want to do different sorts of ministry, you want to get more educated, you want to do story work maybe yourself, right? Your spouse is then going to freak out because you're changing the script.
Yeah.
It's also inviting them to more life, but ultimately they get to choose.
Yeah.
They have to choose. Do I want this? This is so. It's happened with the disciples and Jesus, that there are so many stories of people saying, gosh, if I follow you, I have to leave my family. And Jesus is like,
Yeah.
And I don't think that means you need to divorce your spouse by any means, right? But it does mean that you're leaving some sort of allegiance and loyalty there. That is not, you still have the loyalty to the marriage and the commitment, but your loyalty then is towards God and towards your own healing, and you're not turning your back on your spouse, but you're shifting where there's been a false loyalty, a loyalty that isn't actually healthy, and really a commitment towards a dead life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, again, that's painful, but it is not something to be shy. Like, you don't shy away from that just because it's hard. In fact, you just have to trust that God is working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know how your spouse is going to respond to the invitation of life. And if they hate you for it and they never respond, that's their journey. And that's heartbreaking, but that's not yours to hold.
Yeah.
I do think that there's something to be said for when the science is, when something changes, everything changes, right? And so there is going to be change. And what I hear you saying, Cathy, is that as you change is going to happen. But at least as you're healing and becoming more of who God created you to be, it actually frees your spouse up to make that choice of where they want to go. I have seen, the question being, have you seen this work? I've seen couples begin to come together. My husband, who really did think like, is she in a cult? What's going on here? Is now like a facilitator for story work. So that's a cool part of the story. I've also seen, there's a woman that goes to our church who's done deep work. She's graduated with Freedom Academy as a coach, and she's doing story work and stuff. And her husband just wants nothing to do with it. But here's what's been really cool is she's living her life, and it has given her capacity to love him because she actually understands his story. Now, this isn't like an abusive relationship or something, but like just a guy that just is not, because of his story, he's just not ready to go there. And I don't know if he's never going to be ready to go there, but it's actually expanded her capacity of grace and mercy to be able to love him in a way that it's like God gave her the eyes of how God sees him. Yeah. And so because of that, over the course of years now of her doing all this work and then graduating, her husband actually came to church for the first time, I think like Easter or something, and sat there. And not that that's the end all be all, but that is like a unforced, there is no demand on you. There's just no demand. I love you. I'm for you. I am growing and healing. Doesn't mean that I don't love you, but I am going to heal and grow. And which forced him to have to be curious and look at something or not look at something. But, because I do see that a lot where people are like, well, I just can't stay married then because I'm healing and he's not healed. And I'm like, well, I don't think you have justification for that. Like, I just don't, you're just not happy anymore. Well, happiness is relative. I'm just telling you, you're going to be with somebody in the future that you're not happy with. Like there are moments and seasons.
And happiness is up to you.
Hmm.
It's up to you.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, we're not talking about people who are in
Right.
abusive relationships
Right.
where you should just stick it out. Like
Mhm.
that's not what we're saying here.
Right.
And, you know, there are circumstances where when you cannot find kindness and love for one another, then you do need to let each other go. You know, there are moments that way, and you may disagree with that, but that's how I see it.
No, for sure.
And, you know, but if there is still, if you can grow in mutual respect, you know, whether or not you're happy is up to how you're handling your life.
Hmm.
Your spouse can't make you unhappy.
Hmm.
Your spouse can be unkind, and then you get to decide what do you need to do about that. How do you need to create limits? How do you need to create spaces where you're finding life in different ways? You know, but again, like this idea that people make us unhappy, and this is a really hard, this is a thin line to walk.
I'm
right
here
here
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right. But I just think that so many of us are like, well, I can't be happy until my spouse changes. Bull.
Baloney. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true. That's a way for you because you don't actually know how to love yourself.
Hmm. Okay,
And
Queen,
so,
go off.
oh,
All right,
okay.
that was awesome. Like, just call it as it is. Period. I'm
Right.
like,
Well, and that's
yes.
the thing. Like, I'll get so many couples who are like, well, you know, my spouse, you know, doesn't see me. I'm like, well, look, we've just spent 6 months talking about the fact that you don't see yourself.
Yeah.
So why are you expecting your spouse to all of a sudden see you in a way that you have such self-loathing and contempt? You know, you can't get up in the morning without cursing your body when you put on your jeans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your
So good.
spouse isn't going to fix that for you, and it's not
Yeah.
fair to ask them to. Now, they can be kind and understand your war and be with you in that if you build a collaborative relationship between the two of you, which is
Mhm.
good. We want that. But ultimately, you know, if you haven't done your own internal work to understand what's going on here, someone
Mhm.
else can't fix that for you. You
Yeah.
want them to be the magical mother, the magical father that you didn't have,
Mhm.
and that needs to be grieved, but that's not their job.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was. Am I going? Can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's kind of what I was thinking as you were talking about it. Is to me like I'm reading this question, I'm hearing someone who's having a hard time extracting themselves from the role of being totally enmeshed in their relationship with their husbands, where they're like, I can't be independent and move independently. If he disagrees, how am I going to have a successful marriage because he's not happy?
Yeah.
So what you're
he
covering right
disagrees.
now, it does feel very like that is the internal struggle
So-
underneath. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
it is. And that's, I mean, I love everything that you're saying. And I think we live in a world that produces, if you're not happy, then just leave. And,
Yeah.
and that's for everything. Like, you know, if it's hard, then just do something else.
Right.
And so we have vapid character, people with vapid character.
Right.
And, you know, it's just,
Yeah. Without the understanding that you're the common denominator in all of it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
No.
So it's
Like-
super, I mean, it's super hard because who doesn't want to be in a marriage that's loving, and who doesn't want
Right.
to be in a marriage whereas I'm healing, I want them to heal. And I get this comes back to even the reality of what we were talking about in the first question is the truth is that for many of like life is not roses. Like it's hard.
Yeah.
And how are you going to, the only thing that you can control is you and how you're going to heal. And even some of that you can't. You get a leukemia diagnosis, you can't control that, you know? So
Mm.
there are just some things where you go, man, like if I want to truly find happiness, I've really got to understand. And I think happiness is relative. I think joy is more of probably what people really desire, but they just don't understand how to have subterranean joy in the midst of really hard things. Like when
Yeah.
the scripture says, count it all joy. Well, this doesn't mean that Jesus is asking you to walk around going, you know, I'm just so glad that my mom died and that my husband has, you know, is a jerk, you know, like that's not what he's saying. He's saying you count it joy because I'm with you in the midst of this. I am with
Mhm.
you. And you're going to have a sense of grounding and peace and knowing and shalom, even in the midst of, and I think that's what's true for this relationship. You know, you're like, as you heal, you will have more capacity for joy, for
Mhm.
love, for
Yep.
your enemy.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
And for
So
those of
good.
you who want more information on this, the book that I go to every time, even when I'm in my own space with my husband, it's called Intimacy and Desire by David Schnarch. And it is, there's a lot about, intimacy and other things too, but obviously it's intimacy and desire. But it's a really good outline if you're curious about how to move towards this in terms of your own work and what's holding you back. I find it to be a very, very helpful resource.
That's awesome.
So good. We'll put that in the show notes. Good. All right, we probably have time for like 2 more questions.
Okay. So the next question is going to be for Karrie. Okay. How does our trauma inform our attachment to God? And if we are insecure in our attachment to God, what can we do to heal and repair?
Yes, every relationship that you have is run through the grid of what has shaped you, period. And so we have a grid in which we see relationships, and that would be, psychology term would be like through attachment, like my attachment, how I was raised and what kind of attachment that I have. And whatever we know to be true in our little brains and in our little world is going to be put on every relationship that we have. And God is a God of relationship. It's relational. Even if your relationships with your spouse, your parents are transactional, that's how you're going to see God. How you were raised is how you're going to see God. And so when we don't understand, this is why story work for me has been so healing, is because one, I had disorganized attachments. So I'm all out there. I'm all crazy, but, what I began to learn about myself is to understand how I was raised, and the stories that shaped me very much dictated how I thought God loved me. And then how I thought what he was going to want for me, how we were going to keep our relationship intact. And for a while, it was like, I don't even want any relationship with him because I couldn't keep up with the demand that I felt I needed to do. But to understand your attachments, to understand how you attach in relationship, and how you, and what you missed when you were younger in those places, if you relay that and understand that more, you're going to be able to have a more truer understanding of how you see God. And I really believe that this is for every human out there. Maybe not every, that's dramatic, but 99%, you have to rewire your attachments and how you see how God, how you need to be loved, how you were treated, and how you were shown love, in order for you to be able to see God. So when the question is, how do we, if we have insecure attachments, how do we begin to repair and heal? I personally, and Cathy, maybe you could speak to this, but I actually don't think you can actually I think you can start with the knowledge of knowing who God says you are, but I don't think that you can totally really understand his love for you until you understand where you've not been loved well, and how that's shaped your mind and your body. Because I can know a lot of things in my head. I knew every scripture. Not every, but a lot. I preached, I taught, my dad taught all kinds of stuff. On scripture and understanding God and who God, I knew I was a child of God. I knew, I'm a holy nation. I'm righteous because of God's righteousness. I knew all of that. And I still had no concept that God really wanted to dance in a field with me. I was in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry or ride in the cavalry or shoot the artillery, but I'm in the Lord's army. This is what I was bred to do. And so I had no concept, even outside of all those words, they were all running through the grid of how I was raised. So that no matter how much I knew, it was running through. It's like these glasses that I had. These glasses said, this is what God thinks about you. This is how he loves you. This is what he expects of you. Because those glasses were shaped by those early years of what I believed to be true, and how my dad loved me, really, and how my mom loved me was very much how God was going to love me. And so I do believe repair can happen with God. It has happened for me and many people, but it wasn't until I sat down and really understood more of my story that God could actually shine light and go, hey, that's not actually my voice. That's actually your dad's voice. That's actually your mom's voice. Hey, you're reading that scripture through the lens of performance and demand and not actually through delight. And that began to change everything. But that was impossible for me to do until I really looked at the story.
Yeah, that's so good. Anything to share on that, Cathy?
No. I was just trying to think of, for those of you who don't know, the idea of attachment theory is new for you. I was trying to think, there's a book that just came out recently called Securely Attached, I think is what it's called. And it's a kind of a helpful thing to work through if you're unsure of attachment theory, of how that impacts your life, of how that has impacted your style of relating. And it's a very helpful tool.
It is.
To start to look at, because it explains a lot of where maybe you're stuck, and where you're more rigid, and where you have a harder time receiving or giving love.
Yeah.
We do go over this a lot too in level 2 for those of you guys that want to do some of our training. I know Allender does some stuff as well. So they do cover that. It's awesome. Well, all that to say is these are the kind of things that, again, these are just questions. We're not fleshing them out completely. There are always caveats to every conversation. I just want to be really clear, because when we touch on the realms of addiction, it's tricky. And there is no like clear, this is it for everybody kind of diagnosis. And the truth is, your healing may mean like, well, yeah, alcohol was for a moment in time. Like that was what I was using in that moment, but it doesn't have a hold on me and the power over me that maybe someone else. But for some of you, man, your healing looks like, I have actually done so much healing, but I know my limitations. And that is actually really good. And it's really kind, and it's probably more than what you have experienced, because, to put limitations on yourself in a kind way is actually care. And for someone who's been an addict, that we have not received a lot of care. And so to have actually some kind of like, as my adult self, to put around parameters going, hey, this probably isn't the best for you. And this isn't going to be that's actually good care. And that doesn't mean like, oh gosh, I'm just so broken, I can never have a drink. Or no, it's like you're actually honoring and giving the care to your body and to your little spirit that you needed when you were younger. And that's the whole reason, one of the main reasons why we're doing some of the stuff that you were doing. And so see that as a mark of actual healing and actual honor, rather than the limitation means you're just so broken. I actually think it means you're healing. Any thoughts, Shara? I know this is a subject for you.
No. I have so many thoughts around this. So that's why I've kind of stayed quiet. But I feel like one thing, because this is like, anyone who's ever struggled with their relationship with alcohol, it will always be a touchy subject. The beauty in it is if you've recognized that and you've gone through a season where you have found yourself, because you're so dysregulated, where you have relied on alcohol, it's also a great litmus test to tell you where you are now. If drinking is still something that's in your life, but you find yourself wanting it more and more, it's a great time to take a step back and be like, there's something going on here, because obviously this is what I've leaned on as a crutch before, and I'm leaning on it hard right now.
Oh yeah.
But also that there is so much more than just your drinking problem or your relationship with alcohol. And like we've talked about in this short conversation,
we'll edit it out.
It's so much deeper than that. Like, is it?
Repeat. There's so much more. What?
There's so much more than your relationship with alcohol. And obviously, like you said, Karrie, it's more than there's different, there's not just camps. I feel like there's the alcoholics, or, the healthy relationship with alcohol. There's so much in between, and life is hard, and people have leaned on it in seasons. You're not the only one if you've listened. Obviously, you have 2 people on this podcast who have done that. And there's healing for that. Like we've both experienced a lot of pain, relied on something that wasn't healthy for us, and then really dug deep to figure out what's going on. And it can be a beautiful process. It's not, I wouldn't let the shame of it grab you. I feel really passionate about the shame of alcoholism or struggles with your relationship with alcohol and people, because it'll keep you stuck. Like it just really will. You'll keep quiet, you'll keep to yourself, and it just doesn't need to be that way. And so, no, there's not 2 camps. there's lots of different areas of how people use, like it's a sliding scale depending on how you use it. But regardless of where you are, there can be healing and freedom in it.
So
That's just how
good.
I feel about it.
And I think I
Yeah.
think in your body, there's something of a knowing in you that's like, something's off, something's not okay.
Yeah.
And because I can have a glass of wine and I will not have a knowing in my body that anything is wrong at all. Like as I'm there's not, but there was a knowing when I was eating all this sugar. I'm like, something's off here. I am literally, I looked at my husband and said, I cannot stop eating sugar. Like I am like, can you go to the grocery store and get me a Twix bar? Like, I'm like, there is something going on here. And I just had to stop and take a look back. So gosh, guys, I am so thankful that you guys sent in these questions. We are going to do another round of this because there are still so many more questions. Let me know if you guys like this. We would love for you guys to share. You're always welcome to write in. I don't actually know how you write in, but I'm sure we can put it in the show notes on how to do it. We run a real tight ship over here, but we'd love to hear more. You can message me. You can message Cathy and Cathy can send it to me. You could message Shara. But we would love to hear from you and any questions that you have. If you guys like this, we'd love to keep doing that. But as always, stay curious. Stay honest, stay curious. This is where we grow and where we heal. And we're just so glad to be on the journey with you. We'll see you guys next week.